The Indiana Fever had just given their fans a night they'd been waiting nearly a decade for. A hard-fought playoff win. One that should have been remembered purely for Lexi Hull's game-saving steal, Kelsey Mitchell's leadership, and Aaliyah Boston's dominance in the paint. This was the type of night that should have been plastered across every sports page. A triumphant story of an undermanned, injury-ravaged team clawing its way into the semifinals. Yet, in true WNBA fashion, the postgame celebration didn't stay about basketball for long. Instead, it spiraled into yet another controversy, this time centered around Sophie Cunningham, who found herself face-to-face with an overzealous league security guard in a confrontation that fans can't stop talking about. Sophie, who was already sidelined with a bulky leg brace, wasn't doing anything out of line. She wasn't storming the court. She wasn't trying to get in the officials' faces. She certainly wasn't starting trouble. She was simply standing at mid-court, clearly injured, clearly unable to move the way she normally would, waiting to check on her teammate Odyssey Sims after a scary fall. That's when a security guard decided to play sheriff. Cameras caught the bizarre moment as the guard stepped up to Sophie, barking at her to move back like she was some kind of intruder crashing the floor. What followed was both absurd and infuriating. Sophie didn't back down. She glared. She stood her ground, and she let her body language send the message. Really? This is what you're doing right now? The whole exchange lasted seconds, but that's all it took. Social media lit up like wildfire. Fans weren't just confused, they were outraged. Why was Sophie Cunningham, who could barely walk without her brace, treated like she was about to start a fight? Why did the guard bow up to her with such aggression? And most importantly, why does it feel like moments like this keep happening in the WNBA to the same type of players? Sophie isn't new to this dynamic. She's been branded the villain for years. Outspoken, fiery, unapologetic, she doesn't fit the carefully curated image the league prefers to project. Rival fans love to hate her. The media frames her as a troublemaker. And now, apparently league security thinks she's a threat even when she's clearly injured. The optics were brutal. On one side, you had Sophie Cunningham unable to sprint if she wanted to, standing in her brace with her arms crossed, waiting for her teammate. On the other, a security guard puffed up and ready to escalate what was nothing. Clips of the stare-down hit Twitter within minutes. Fans immediately began calling it what it was: harassment, not enforcement. The reaction was swift and fierce. People flooded comment sections pointing out the hypocrisy. If Angel Reese or Paige Buchers had been in Sophie's shoes, they said, the headlines would have been glowing. They'd be praised for showing passion, for supporting their teammate. But because it was Sophie, she was suddenly framed as the problem. And this is where the frustration boils over for Fever fans and WNBA watchers alike. It's not just about one rent-a-cop overstepping. It's about a pattern. Time and time again, we've seen the league treat certain players differently. Caitlin Clark has lived it all season, targeted with hard fouls, shoved, hacked, taunted while referees look the other way. When Clark or Sophie push back, they're branded as villains. Meanwhile, others in the league can get away with antics that are rebranded as swagger and competitiveness. Fans notice the double standard, and they're not quiet about it. Hashtags like #FreeSophie and #WNBAExposed trended within hours of the incident. Even neutral fans, many of them drawn into women's basketball by Clark's historic rookie season, looked at the clip and said the same thing. The WNBA doesn't protect or promote its stars if they don't fit the mold. What makes this worse is how unnecessary it all was. The Fever had just pulled off an incredible win despite missing nearly half their roster. Caitlin Clark was sidelined. Sophie was sidelined. Chloe Bibby, Sydney Colson, Ari McDonald, and Darius Dantas were all out too. Yet somehow, through resilience and toughness, Indiana pulled through. That should have been the headline. That should have been what people were talking about the next morning. Instead, the conversation became Sophie Cunningham versus a mall cop with a badge. Outsiders who tuned in expecting to hear about playoff basketball walked away talking about league dysfunction. And that's a disaster for the WNBA, because let's be honest, The league has spent years begging for mainstream relevance. They want growth, bigger TV deals, more sponsorships, and larger fan bases. But you can't achieve that if your biggest stories aren't about the players' brilliance on the court, but about viral clips of them being mistreated off it. You can't ask fans to take you seriously if your own security team is out there picking fights with injured players during moments of celebration. This isn't just bad optics, it's bad business. Fans don't want nonsense. They don't want favoritism. They don't want to see their stars harassed. They want the game, the competition, and the emotion that comes with it. And yet, every time something like this happens, it reinforces the narrative that the WNBA can't get out of its own way. The incident with Sophie Cunningham was the perfect example. Fans were supposed to be talking about Lexi Hull's steal, about Aaliyah Boston's maturity in the paint, about Kelsey Mitchell carrying the scoring load with poise. Instead, they were mocking the league for what they called the most embarrassing moment of the season. People ripped Commissioner Kathy Engelbert online, accusing her of turning the WNBA into a circus act. Some even called for her resignation, saying the league had lost sight of what matters. And you know what? The anger wasn't misplaced because Sophie handled it better than anyone else. She didn't blow up. She didn't shout. She didn't give the league any ammunition to spin the story against her. She just stood there, glared, and refused to be bullied. Later, when asked about it, she laughed it off with classic Cunningham defiance, saying the league was just mad the Fever weren't supposed to be there in the first place. Her words were lighthearted, but the message was clear. This team is fueled by doubt, by disrespect, and by the endless attempts to write them off. And for Sophie, it only added to her legend. Every time the league tries to minimize her, her fan base grows louder. Every time they try to paint her as the villain, she becomes more beloved by those who see her as real, unfiltered, and unapologetic. This isn't the first time the WNBA has fumbled like this. And unfortunately, it probably won't be the last. Caitlin Clark continues to be the biggest draw in the history of women's basketball, yet she's targeted more than she's celebrated. Sophie Cunningham trends every time she plays, every time she speaks, every time she gets into a scuffle. She's box office, whether the league likes it or not. And instead of embracing these players, the WNBA keeps shoving them into roles that don't fit. The villain, the outsider, the troublemaker. It's a tired narrative. Fans are sick of it. At the end of the day, this should have been about Indiana's resilience. About a team that refused to quit despite every injury and every bad whistle thrown their way. About Lexi Hull, proving that even on your worst shooting night, you can still deliver the play of the season. About Aaliyah Boston showing poise well beyond her years. About Kelsey Mitchell proving once again she's one of the league's most underrated stars. Instead, the viral clip that defined the night was Sophie Cunningham staring down a security guard in disbelief. And that's the tragedy here. The league can't get out of its own way. Its failures keep overshadowing its players' triumphs. But fans see through it now. They're not letting this go. Every clip, every tweet, every meme only adds fuel to the fire. They've already decided Sophie was wronged, and the league looks ridiculous again. Sophie didn't need to shout or scream to win this battle. Her glare said it all. And as the Fever move forward into the semifinals, fans will remember this moment not as a distraction, but as proof of what this team and players like Sophie stand for: toughness, defiance, and the refusal to be silenced. Do you think Sophie Cunningham is being singled out by the WNBA? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss the latest updates. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.